As we say in our davening, on both Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there are three things which are central to this time of year which help us roll back the possible negative decrees. We say Tshuva, Tefillah, Utzdaka, Ma'avirin, et Roa, Gzeira. So I want to focus for a moment on Tefillah. And Tefillah, prayer, is something that's often very hard for us to focus on. In the Yerushalmi, it describes how many of the Amoraim weren't able to concentrate, and they would count the bricks on the wall and the like, and we know that it's something that's really very difficult, especially as we do it 3 times a day. Trying to find a way of inspiring ourselves is something that we all struggle with. And I want to just focus on one idea which Rabbi Soloveitchik suggested and developed in many places that I think helps us. We tend to think of Tefillah as something that's up there in heaven, it's rarefied. And especially if you look at Kabbalistic writings, they focus on the notion that you should daven and you should focus on the needs of God, so to speak, of the Shekhinah, of improving the godliness in the world, and think about these high universal ideas. And sometimes we think that even if we're not thinking about God and what's best for God in the world, we think we should be davening for the community, for the world. And both of those are true. We should be caring and davening that the world become more godly. We should be davening for the community. But if you're only focusing on those ideas, so that it's very hard to concentrate on Tefillah, because the reality is that most of us really focus, and the main part of our lives is our own needs. Right? We get up in the morning, we have things we need to do, and even if we're altruistic and even if we're devoted to good causes, much of our day is taken up by our mundane needs. And one of the themes that Rabbi Soloveitchik developed in his writing about Tefillah, about prayer, is that's not something we should be ashamed of. Tefillah really is meant to be something which reflects our day-to-day reality. It's a way for us to acknowledge that God can provide us what we need, and He wants us to ask Him. And as Rabbi Soloveitchik says in other places, it's a way for us to figure out what it is that we need, because when we take that time to ask God for what we need, it forces us to ask ourselves, well, what is it that we really need, and what's worth needing, what's worth asking from God? And I think we have to take that idea and realize we shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that Tefillah, in the end of the day, is about asking for our needs. There's something beautiful about that simple idea in Tefillah, that God gives us the ability and perhaps the obligation to turn to Him when we need something. And we should take that as a privilege and take something that is inspiring, that even the mundane, day-to-day, God cares, He's listening, and He wants us to talk to Him. Just to give an example that happened to me right now, 2 weeks ago, I was in my apartment. There was a little bit of a flood. A pipe burst upstairs. And we've been out of our apartment now for a little over 2 weeks, which has been frustrating. And some people have said to me, well, you understand sort of, which obviously we don't, what's happening in Houston and Florida, which obviously is meant facetiously, because, we're in a much better state than that. And, I almost feel bad complaining about the situation I'm in, because I know that people have real floods. Our stuff wasn't really damaged. We're going to be back at our apartment before Yontif, and people will be out for months or years. So you might think that when it comes to Tefillah, I shouldn't bother asking Hashem to speed up the process of getting everything in order, getting us back in our apartment faster, because, that's just selfish of me. But I think the point of Tefillah is, obviously, yes, I should care about others, and I should daven for the people who really need help from Hashem. They need help rebuilding their lives. But if the fact that I was davening for others would stop me from also including my Tefillah, God, please help me get into my apartment before Yontif, something would be lacking, because God doesn't want me just to care about the big things and the universals. He wants me to really feel that He cares about my day-to-day, He cares about my needs, He cares about my wants, and that I should want to and I should feel able to turn to Him and ask Him for the things that I need. So Tefillah, while yes, it should be an opportunity for us to think about the big things and to think about what the world needs and what the Jewish people needs, I think it would help us really ground ourselves and inspire ourselves in Tefillah if we remember, as Rabbi Soloveitchik noted, that a central part of tefillah is not just davening for others, but is saying the very mundane things that we need and recognizing that God is listening and waiting for us just to ask Him so that He can respond with open arms.